Hello, this is my biology presentation. I'm Miguel González Valencia, and my project is about comparison of the one apes, the sharks, and the whale's evolution. Of course, in terms of how they evolved and what brought them to evolve. Okay, so our introduction is that in this project we're going to see the differences and the similarities between the evolution of these three families. We could say that families and try to find a not maybe not a common ancestor, but maybe try to find like a reason why they evolved, how they evolved, and of course how asked what made them evolve, like why, how, what, and some characteristics of that evolutions. And we will use this as a research investigation to understand better. Now, first, our program problem questions, which are first one, what are the like major differences between this evolution, and second, what factors determine how this animal evolved like they are today? And we're going to see first some general concept in the general chart, which first we're going to see what is a shark. A shark is a shark is first of all a fish, and its evolution of the shark has started over 400 million years ago. Years ago, this first shark, of course, the sharks were first as we know with their large head and their serrated teeth. They were first like the Hyperporion and the Ortan cartoons, which were pretty different from the original sharks. But well, they were the original sharks. They were Tancanthus, which was the first one. Well, not the first one, but one of the latest. The oldest shark ever existing was your Tancanthus. It was like a eel, but with armor and really hard skin. Then we also have the Helicorpion, which is kind of more similar to like, well, not a dolphin, but way more similar like to sharks actually, but still pretty different in the head and in the head and in the mouth. It had serrated teeth in form of a sound, like in a serrating sound. That's why it was so like, strange, and it isn't similar to sharks today. Which comes to this. The shark as we know it has a curved head and serrated teeth, and they are mostly made of cartilage, which is what helps them be so fast underwater and be so good hunters. And of course, we also have the granapes, which are basically in the family of the orangutans, the gorillas, the bonobos, and the humans. They are they have a higher intellect than most hominids, first of all, except maybe the chimpanzee. They have evolved in a pretty similar way. It just evolved like 20, 15 years ago. It's 20, 50 million years ago. It started their evolution when they separated from the other families, and it's really big differences. But here, like the gorillas are heavier and have more muscular mass because they live in harder environments, and their patterns of conduct are pretty different. While bonobos and humans have more elongated hands for more complex tasks and have a more slim body, while gorillas use their hands to support them. Orangutans we could say are in a medium point. They use their hands and extremities to climb and to move around with branches. That's why they are so large. But they have their arms so large, and their fingers are also so large. Basically, they have the same bone collocation, each one of them, but it's pretty larger. It's really larger. In the case of the gorillas, it's more sturdy. Its bone mass is pretty larger. While the bonobos and the human hands are pretty similar. The bonobos hands are a little bit larger, while in other terms aren't like in bones. Human is the ones that have less hair in all the body in general. Now in the whales are mammals. Mammals, yeah. Whales are mammals, like dolphins, they share the same species. Evolution started 40 to 45 million years ago with the first ice age. And of course, this may be an explanation to its evolution, but we're going to deep in that later. And for now, we know that there are fishes, there were first normal mammals, we could say, that lived in land and eat it in land. But we suppose that the case of food and competition may have got them. Their ancestors, they were related to the hippos. Their ancestors were like a weasel, but with marine adaptations. A common ancestor is the nearest ancestor to a before two species separate into two different species, obviously. We already solved our problem questions. Now, our hypothesis. Hypothesis 1. I hypothesize that, well, the groundness evolved from the mammals that stayed on land. Whales adapted to live in the ocean. Also, with the whales lower surviving long terms in the sea, the worms learned to live in land and climb trees and use objects, and to use more dim tasks, more careful tasks. While of course the sharks were able to be more hunters, considering how much they have been near to extinction. Now, hypothesis two. Hypothesis two is that I believe that when they run evolved as they did is basically competition to food. They needed to use better things. They needed to evolve cognitionally to compete with the species with higher strength, higher, were bigger. If the term food, which there was a period in which most species we can see a common evolution in most, we could say, monkeys or the hominids family, which we see they have still some similarities. So we can compare that there was a necessity to adapt like that. And same with whales, they decided to, because of competition, to go to the sea, where we could assume there were better opportunities. Sharks already lived in the sea, like they were already in the sea, but we know we can evolve to keep it with so many animals evolved in the competition of the food chain. We can assume sharks evolved to keep in the game to stay as a like a tertiary or tertiary or apex predator in sometimes. Now, reptile sharks, the sharks we know right now emerged just 100 million years ago. Whether now elongated and so their bad sight and their highly sense of smell. But sharks have always had really specific adaptations, considering they are basically most species are completely different. I will give you three examples. First is the tiger shark. The tiger shark has adapted to have hot blood. Like on most of fishes, he has hot blood, but it has hot blood to keep active and be able to chase prey longer times, while the prey too have to rest to get up energy and heat from the sun. The tiger shark doesn't need that. The tiger shark uses the heat on his blood to keep going, although he does need more food. Of course, then we have other adaptations like the fox shark, which has a really large tail, which uses like a whip to stun stun fishes that he hunt, so he can eat them fast and easily. They hunt generally in groups of two or three, makes them lethal. Lastly, the sow shark or the serratus is a shark with a really elongated snout like a sow. It has the Florenci pompes, Florenci in Spanish las ampollas de Lorenzi, which basically permitted to receive electromagnetic waves from the movement of muscles limb. Basically, it turns the mechanical waves when we do movement underwater into electrical, and it feels like the electrical pulse, the electrical sense of the waves. Of course, most sharks can do this, but this one is one that is specifically adapted to that because it's elongated stalks Its elongated node, like in the Formosa saw, has a lot of Lorenz's of those receptors. It has too many. Now, the grenades, well, they just started to evolve in 15, 20 years, millions years, like, not that much, they haven't evolved 40, 50 million years. Of course, they haven't evolved to, most, they haven't evolved to, like, bigger, they haven't, like, specified more differently, but they do have its differences, and we can see a common necessity to climb trees and have fingers that can use hands, that can use tools, and that can grab things and have a higher grip. Of course, the orangutan has a higher grip, while the gorilla has a bigger strength. The human is the one with better cognition, while the bonobo is really similar with a better cognition, but still living on trees, with a, of course, higher grip, which makes it pretty versatile. This can assume there was a necessity for that. We don't know right now the common sense, so we just have theories. But we do know that there was a common necessity to evolve like that. Then we have the result for whales, similar to mammals. This started in the Ice Age 20 million years before the grand apes started evolving into their own family. The first Ice Age was pretty bad. It was pretty cold, and it was the first time in many years to happen an event like that. We must assume with the case of food for many years, you can assume they started to adapt to this environment. The first, we don't know the common ancestor of the whales. Well, first of all, it was before it separated, was the Pachycentus. It was like hyena, like weasel. Then it went to have a tiger tail. It became like an ornithorhynchus until it went to a whale. First was the orca whale. It's really similar to them. That's why the orca whale is so much similar to a mammal than most whales. Well, I must assume these are important results. We make the assumption that there was a period where there were special adapting necessities with so many whales and so many animals like the hippos. Evolving at a similar time to call similar tasks, with whales being specialized in hunting groups like the orca whales or surviving at really deeps, like deep in the ocean with a lot of pressure. We can assume there was a necessity for food. There was a real competition. We must assume that to understand that competition is what actually makes animals stand. We must assume that. I hope that this was almost correct. It had some flaws, but yes, we must know that there was a common necessity for this. We must, for now, since we don't have a way to look back, then we must, by looking at fossils and at how they adapt, we must assume what that common necessity was. Probably food, but and competition, but maybe there could have been something else. That's why I think it's important to evolve, and also thank you for hearing me.